In the dark days following the attack on Pearl Harbor, America needed a victory. The Japanese military seemed unstoppable, sweeping across the Pacific. Morale in the United States was low. A daring plan was hatched to strike back at the heart of the enemy, Japan itself. This audacious mission, known as the Doolittle Raid, was conceived by Navy Captain Francis Lowe and championed by Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle. The plan was risky. It involved launching land-based B-25 bombers from the deck of an aircraft carrier, something that had never been done before. The target, Tokyo and other major Japanese cities. The goal to show Japan that America could and would fight back, even after the devastating blow at Pearl Harbor. The raid would be a symbol of American resilience and a much-needed boost to the nation's morale. The Doolittle Raid was a top-secret operation. Only a select few knew about it. The risks were high, but the potential rewards were even greater. The raid, if successful, could change the course of the war in the Pacific. Preparing for this unprecedented mission required intense training and ingenuity. The selected bomber crews, drawn from the 17th Bombardment Group, faced a daunting task. They had to learn how to take off in a much shorter distance than their B-25s were designed for. The crews practiced relentlessly at a naval air station in Florida. They simulated carrier takeoffs on the shortened runway, painted deck markings, and even used a pitching platform to mimic the movement of a ship at sea. Every detail mattered. These airmen were volunteers, all aware of the dangers they faced. They knew this was a one-way mission. Landing the bombers on the short carrier deck after the raid was impossible. Their only option was to continue flying west and attempt to land in China. The training was rigorous, physically and mentally demanding, but the crews pushed themselves to the limit, driven by patriotism and a burning desire to strike back at the enemy. Leading this extraordinary group of men was Lieutenant Colonel James "Jimmy" Doolittle, a renowned aviator and engineer. Doolittle was a pioneer in aviation, known for his daring exploits and technical expertise. He was the perfect choice to lead this risky mission. Doolittle's leadership was instrumental in the success of the raid. He inspired confidence in his men, demanding the highest standards of performance while fostering a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. He led by example, always willing to take on the same risks as his men. Doolittle was not just a skilled pilot, but also a gifted engineer. He worked closely with the crews to modify the B-25 bombers for the mission, increasing their fuel capacity and making other adjustments to prepare them for the long flight over the Pacific. His leadership, combined with the courage and skill of his men, would prove crucial in overcoming the many challenges that lay ahead. The Doolittle Raiders, as they would come to be known, were ready to make history. On April 1st, 1942, the USS Hornet, carrying the 16 B-25 bombers and their crews, set sail from San Francisco under a veil of secrecy. The mood on board was a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. The men knew this was a one-way mission. The journey across the Pacific was tense. The crews conducted final checks on their aircraft, their thoughts turning to their families and the task ahead. The closer they got to Japan, the greater the risk of being discovered by enemy patrols. On the morning of April 18th, fate intervened. A Japanese patrol boat spotted the Hornet. The Americans were still hundreds of miles from their intended launch point. The element of surprise was lost. Doolittle made the fateful decision to launch the raid early. One by one, the B-25 bombers rumbled down the short deck of the Hornet and into the sky. They were headed for Japan, carrying the hopes of a nation desperate for a victory. The raid itself was a whirlwind of action and danger. Flying low to avoid enemy radar, the Doolittle Raiders approached their targets: Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, Kobe, and Osaka. They dropped their bombs on military and industrial installations. The Japanese were caught completely off guard. They had not anticipated an attack on their homeland, especially not by land-based bombers. The raids caused panic and confusion in the streets of Tokyo and other cities. Despite facing anti-aircraft fire and enemy fighters, the Doolittle Raiders successfully hit their targets. They inflicted limited material damage, but achieved something far more significant: a huge psychological blow to Japan. After dropping their bombs, the American crews flew on towards China, their fuel running dangerously low. Each man knew the odds of survival were slim, but they pressed on, their courage unwavering. With darkness falling and fuel dwindling, the B-25s began to scatter, forced to ditch or crash land in Japanese-occupied China. Some crews bailed out over the East China Sea. The Doolittle Raiders faced incredible challenges on the ground. Injured, exhausted, and hunted by Japanese patrols, they relied on the help of courageous Chinese civilians and soldiers who risked their lives to shelter and protect them. Of the 80 men who took part in the raid, 79 survived. 3 died during the mission, 8 were captured by the Japanese. 3 of those were executed, and 1 died in captivity. The surviving raiders eventually made their way back to Allied lines, their stories of courage and survival becoming legendary. The Doolittle Raid was a testament to the bravery and skill of the American airmen and the unwavering support of the Chinese people who aided them. It was a story of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of war. The Doolittle Raid, though militarily insignificant in terms of damage inflicted, had a profound impact on the war in the Pacific. It was a crucial turning point, both strategically and psychologically. For Japan, the raid was a humiliating blow. It shattered their belief that their homeland was invulnerable to attack. The raid also forced them to divert resources to defend their home islands, weakening their offensive operations elsewhere. For America, the Doolittle Raid was a much-needed morale booster. It showed the world that the United States was down but not out. It demonstrated American resolve and capability to strike back at the enemy. The raid also had a significant impact on the course of the war. It contributed to the Japanese decision to launch the ill-fated Midway operation, seeking to eliminate the perceived threat of the American carrier fleet. This battle, a decisive American victory, marked a turning point in the Pacific War. The Doolittle Raid also had a lasting impact on U.S. China relations. The courageous assistance provided by the Chinese people to the downed American airmen forged a strong bond of friendship between the two nations. The Chinese risked their lives to help the American flyers, providing them with food, shelter, and medical attention. They guided them through Japanese-occupied territory, helping them evade capture and reach safety. The shared experience of the Doolittle Raid cemented a wartime alliance between the United States and China. It laid the foundation for a lasting friendship based on mutual respect and shared values. The raid also highlighted the strategic importance of China in the war against Japan. The United States recognized the sacrifices made by the Chinese people and provided increased support to their war effort. The Doolittle Raid stands as a testament to the courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice of those who participated in it. It is a story of daring leadership, unwavering courage, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The raid serves as a reminder of the strategic importance of alliances and the critical role that such partnerships play in times of conflict. It highlights the importance of international cooperation in the face of shared threats. The Doolittle Raid continues to inspire generations with its message of courage, resilience, and the importance of fighting for freedom. It is a story that will forever be etched in the annals of military history. The legacy of the Doolittle Raid lives on, not just in the memories of those who participated in it, but also in the enduring friendship between the United States and China, a bond forged in the fires of war and strengthened by shared sacrifice. What did you think of the Doolittle Raid? Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe to History in Combat for more.